Hello, Sleepy Voyagers. Tonight, we'll step into Atlantis on the calmest night of the year, when every lantern along the canals flickers in perfect rhythm, until a gentle stir in the deep knocks the lights out of sync and nudges a bridge out of place. Stay with me as we guide the city back into balance, one soft task at a time. By the time the lanterns align again, Sasha and Aya will find each other at dawn, and you'll be sinking into a deep state of rest long before they arrive. Let your breathing slow to a soft, even pace, and notice how the body settles when sounds and lights move together. The nervous system likes patterns that repeat because predictability signals safety. So, let your exhale lengthen a touch more than your inhale, and feel how the mind eases as rhythms line up. In Atlantis, night rests on water like a thin sheet of silk. Lanterns along the canals pulse together, a shared cadence that spreads from key to key. Each wick brightens and dims on the same calm beat, and the soft glow slips across stone steps and low arches. Oars dip in unison, then rise with a tiny click of wood against wet brass oarlocks, the sound timed to the lantern breath. Wind chimes tuned to the canals tilt on their chords, offering notes that meet and lean into each other without strain. There is salt in the air, sweetened by algae, and a hint of sun-warmed rope cooling for the night. Water moves so smoothly that reflections keep their edges, the city doubling itself without blur. Underfoot, stones hold a faint hum from the day's warmth, and that hum fades in slow waves, steady as a resting heartbeat. What makes a place feel like it is breathing? Rhythmic visuals and steady sounds act like a soft metronome for the body. When the eye follows a repeating light and the ear receives consistent tones, the nervous system quiets. It becomes easier to drift because nothing asks for guard or quick reaction. Predictable patterns support relaxation. They tell the body it can lower its watch and trust the next moment to look like the last. The city is a long, slow exhale. All night it releases the day in measured length, and the release guides the boats, the lamps, the bells on mooring lines. Then, somewhere deep, a tremor rolls under the stones, barely a sound, more a pressure that turns in the belly of the sea. It is a gentle sigh from the deep, the sort of sound that does not frighten, but changes timing by a hair's breadth. Lanterns lag by a heartbeat, not a dimming, just a tiny delay. The warm peaks of light no longer crest in the same instant. An oar's rise meets a lantern's dim, not its bloom, and the neat pattern loosens. On a key bridge, the central seam slides off true center by the thickness of a finger. The ratchets that help it settle pause with a muted click, as if waiting for a cue that comes late. Soft light still glows. The salt-sweet air still flows easily into every lane. The water remains silk smooth, but its surface begins to carry slow rings where it held glass moments before. The hum underfoot lifts and drops like a sigh that did not finish. A single lantern's wick gutters. It does not fail. It just shows its carbon tip and bends. Chime notes that once kissed on the same vowel start to drift apart, close enough to belong but not quite meeting. A rope over a pulley creaks, not from weight, just from a different rhythm coming through the fiber. The sound sits low and smooth, a reminder that even gentle things can slip a little out of time. This shift asks for care, not force. If a lantern's pulse steadies, the eye relaxes. If a chime finds its easy tone, the heart follows. If a bridge settles true, every footfall finds comfort. The task is simple in shape. Restore the city's rhythm so paths become clear again. He stands near a landing with lanterns ringing a small pool, watching their light circle the wall in uneven loops. She rests her hand on a balustrade where a good breeze should turn a chime, and the bead on its string sticks for a breath, then slips. Neither tense. Both feel how the change can be met with calm steps. A hand reaches to the closest lamp. The glass is warm, the brass cap cool where the night has kissed it. A gentle twist lifts the lid. Fingers pinch the wick to clear the tiny bloom of carbon, and the pad of the thumb smooths the fiber back to shape. Breath moves across the flame, not a puff, only a slow exhale to feed it fresh air. The flame lifts, rounds, and holds. Light becomes even again. The eye softens, and with it, the jaw slackens and the shoulders loosen by a fraction. Another lantern responds to the same care, then another. There is no rush. Each steady light becomes a quiet anchor, and the canal edge begins to show a path that pleases the mind. Boats in their berths ease into a shared sway. Ropes stop rubbing and settle in their housings with no complaint. The chimes answer the steadier breeze by leaning back toward their gentle intervals. Above, the quay bridge waits. Its seam looks almost straight when seen from the steps, but a reflection in the nearest pool shows the angle off by a breath, enough to change how a foot meets the arch. The ratchets will need only patience, one notch, then wait, then one notch more. So the structure remembers how it rests when nothing presses. I want you to feel the same pace in your own body. Long inhale, longer exhale. Repeating lights and steady sounds can pacify the nervous system, and your breath can do that from the inside. With each slow exhale, you mark an easy cadence, the way the lanterns wish to move. You can let that pattern spread from chest to belly, and then outward to the edges of your awareness. The deep tremor passes again, softer now, and the rings on the canal plait themselves into wider circles before they fade. The city is still a long, slow exhale. The sigh that changed the timing now thins, its influence leaving space for gentle correction. A group of chimes that strayed begin to find each other, not quite together, but close enough to comfort. There is a simple truth here. When patterns return, the body rests. Repetition, low effort, and easy signals are how a place invites slumber. One lantern steadied by a simple touch, one chime set back to its vowel, one seam nudged toward true. Each action calms a small corner, and small corners combine into a wide ease. He looks down the curved lane and sees the next pool waiting with an unhurried ripple. She tastes the salt-sweet air and notices how the breeze reaches her hair and then moves on, ready to turn the next bead, the next tone, the next calm sound. The first lantern has settled, the flame holds. The light becomes a soft coin on stone, and the water takes it and returns it with kindness. The eye rests, and in that rest, paths begin to draw themselves. And as the light steadies, two travelers standing on opposite sides of the same water notice the gap between them widening. Let your breath settle again, slow and easy, and notice how a tiny change can still touch the whole body. As the chest rises and falls, let the exhale grow a shade longer, so the rhythm inside you stays soft and dependable, like a lantern's quiet glow across the water. Sasha and Aya arrive from opposite banks, walking toward the moon bridge the way they do each night. Their steps match the softened beat of the city, unhurried, familiar. The arch ahead carries a faint sheen from the canal, a pale ribbon pulling light from every lantern along the quay. This is their meeting place, simple and sure, where the span usually settles into perfect balance by the time the stars peak. Then, the slightest skip enters the pattern. The bridge's central seam, where two halves kiss and hold, slips off by the width of a finger. It is barely a mark to the eye, yet enough to shift the feel underfoot. The gentle ratchets that guide the halves into true position stall for half a breath, their teeth resting without that soft final click. A narrow channel opens between the stones, just wide enough to keep a foot from crossing. No threat, only a pause. They both stop at the same moment, each reading the shape of the arch from their side. The lantern nearest the seam throws its reflection into the canal, and the line bends by a breath, a lit stroke that curves where it usually rests straight. The tide murmurs underneath, a velvet hush against the pier blocks. Mooring ropes ease a little slack, one coil loosening by a loop as the flow shifts and tugs at a new angle. This is how such bridges behave, the kind that float or hang from anchored points. Subtle current changes press or release, and the parts respond. A small misalignment alters how water passes, and water answers in kind, turning swirls into long drifts, or long drifts into faint curls. The effect is quiet but real, like the way a pendulum's swing adjusts when a room's air changes. The smell of wet stone rises, mineral smooth and cool, brushed by the salt that lingers on every surface after a day's light. From the markets, a hush arrives, like the last note of a song still hanging there. The rhythm that held steady all evening moves unevenly now, a soft offbeat that you can feel more than hear. It lays between heartbeats and steps and waits for a gentle correction. Sasha and Aya see each other clearly across the gap. No worry travels between them. They both know the city and trust its ways. Separation settles here not as loss, but as a brief delay that asks for patience. The canal's voice makes a low promise that the pattern will return if given kind hands and a little time. They keep their breaths measured, the way canal keepers teach. Sasha lifts a hand and shapes a sign, thumb and forefinger touching, to show a circle that stands for hold and watch. Aya answers with the open palm that means move the banks, then two fingers together pointing forward. We meet ahead. These signs belong to the night cruise, used when words would carry too far across water. They flow like a short, quiet poem, clear and soft. The bridge stays still, lodged in that tiny offset. A gull somewhere steps from one piling to another and ruffles its feathers. The chimes near the quay give a gentle cluster of notes, pleasant yet slightly out of tune. The air cools a shade. You might feel that drop across your cheeks as you rest, a small cue to tuck deeper into the coziness of your bed and let the shoulders release a little more. Sasha glances down at the lantern ring on his side. He tilts one glass to clear a film of mist and checks the wick. The flame answers, brightening without flare, then holding steady. Aya studies the rope ladder near her feet, sees where a knot has turned so the fibers rub, and smooths it back into line. They both keep to small steps. Calm action invites calm result. Another breath, and you can let your own pace echo theirs. Light inhale, longer exhale. When movement grows predictable, the nervous system relaxes and allows the mind to drift toward slumber. Here, the task is not to push the bridge into place, but to bring the city's cues back into an easy unity so the bridge naturally follows. Sasha tests the ratchet handle closest to the seam. It resists, not from strain, just from the angle. He does not force it. He lowers the handle, counts a slow beat, then counts another. Aya scans the nearest mooring post, sees the rope's lay easing out of its groove, and lifts it gently to rest it back where the wood remembers it. Neither speaks. Both move with that deliberate softness that brings things to rest. A lantern's reflection firms, straighter than a moment ago. Tide sound settles, long strokes instead of scattered hushes. The ropes finish their slackening and hold there, no extra loops unwinding. The bridge remains misaligned by that small measure, and yet the world around it grows more agreeable. It all feels like a body finding a slow, even exhale after a sigh. They raise their hands together to speak across the water again. Aya points downbank toward the steps that lead to the wind chime arcade and makes the sign for tune. Sasha touches the railing and marks a slow circle for lanterns, then ropes, then taps the air to show "We return by dawn." Each gesture carries habit and care, the kind of understanding that blooms from many quiet evenings and shared tasks. They both smile, nothing big, just the easy curve that says, "We know the way." The nod that follows is soft and sure. The plan is simple. They will let the bridge rest and meet its true shape again after the city's other rhythms find their calm. Along the banks, they will put small things right, and like a pair of threads drawn from the same spool, they will come back toward each other as the pattern returns. Feel free to drift off if sleep is already close. The story will keep moving as gently as the water. Your breathing can match the lanterns that hold steady along the edges, glow by glow, wick by wick, as the body eases further. Sasha turns into the lane that runs toward the rope bridge and the terraces beyond. Aya steps toward the arcades where chimes wait for tender hands. Their footsteps spread into the softened beat of the city, not the strong count from earlier, but a kind of lull, like a cradle that sways in a small room. The moon bridge, quiet in its slight offset, watches them go, its stones content to wait for the flow to find evenness again, and the ratchets to give that final satisfied click. Let's just settle again, and let your breathing find a slow, steady wave, because small, repeated motions often pacify the nervous system when the path feels unclear. When actions come in simple pairs, left and right, step and step, the mind takes comfort in the predictability. You can let your exhale lengthen gently and notice how the body softens as patterns begin to line up. Sasha turns into the stairway district, where the steps climb in shallow rises and long landings. On each step, a lantern sits in a cradle of sea-smoothed stone. Tonight, their timing is off. First and third brighten, while second and fourth pause. The glow stutters so the eye can't find a clean count. Shadows overlap and then separate too slowly, as if the stairs cannot agree on when to invite the next foot to lift. He stands at the base and waits for a cycle, head tilted slightly, counting the pulse that used to carry him easily upward. A draft slides along the risers, playful but inconsistent, and the flame of a lantern leans, recovers, then leans again. The stair rhythm doesn't settle. His foot hovers over the first step and hesitates. This is not danger. It is a gentle mismatch, the kind that asks for tender attention and simple repair. Sasha kneels by the first pair, working in a bilateral cadence to guide his own focus. He touches the left lantern, then the right. Pairs, then fours, like hands moving through a calm dance. Repetition at this level is low effort, and that makes the body trust. It anchors attention without strain. When the left matches the right and then two pairs match each other, the pattern begins to hum again. He lifts the small brass cap on the first lantern. The hinge whispers. The glass holds a soft film of mist, and he wipes it with the back of his knuckles, careful not to change the heat too fast. He pinches the wick between finger and thumb, trimming the carbon tip so the fiber can feed cleanly. He breathes across the flame, not a strong blow, just a slow exhale to shape the air. The flame rounds. He shields it with his palm and lowers the cap. Then he does the same for its partner across the step, keeping the cadence. Left, right, pause, breathe. 2 steps up, he repeats. Glass, wick, breath, shield. The motions are light and unhurried, and the effect is immediate in the body. The shoulders drop. The jaw loosens. When effort is modest and rhythm is steady, arousal lowers. The nervous system reads the cue as safety. A stare that had felt like a question now feels like a sentence with a gentle end. The uneven glow still shows in pockets where the wind skims the wall and tugs. Shadows cross at odd angles, lingering in a way that asks the eyes to work. So he widens to 4, a small cluster. He relights in sequence, working top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, then waits for the pattern to settle. The 4 lanterns answer together, a warm square that steadies the stride. The steps invite the next foot, then the next. The scent of clean oil rises, faint and sweet. The metal of the caps is cool at the edges and warm near the hinge. The stone under his palm holds a gentle damp from the canal breeze. Each flame becomes a quiet promise that forward is possible. He does not rush it. He allows the stairs to teach their own pace, and his breathing mirrors that slow return to order. He moves in small sections, skipping none. Where a wick has frayed into a fork, he spins it gently to bring the fibers back into one. Where soot lines the glass, he takes a soft cloth from his belt and lifts the film until the glow can spread without harsh edges. Where air drafts cause a lean, he shifts a lens a fraction to reduce the pull. Every motion is the same family of care, repeated with mild variation, so the body keeps resting deeper into the pattern. From below, the canal gives a faint hush. Above, a gull steps, then steps again, as if it too seeks the count. Sasha continues his pairs, then his 4s, and the staircase replies. The hesitation in his steps dissolves. His footfalls begin to land with the comfort of a lullaby. Heel and toe, as the lights find their clean cadence. Midway up, the wind changes. It slips through a narrow alley and teases a line of flames, so they all bow in the same direction, then wobble back to center. He pauses and lets the current pass. He uses his palm as a shield, creating a tiny, calm pocket around the wick, giving it space to decide on a steady shape. Pinch, trim, breathe, shield. The method repeats and repeats, soft on the hands, soothe into the mind. You can follow that pace in your own body if you wish. Count left and right in the chest. Let the inhale be 1, the exhale be 2, and allow both to grow long. The predictability is a comfort because it takes no effort to recall. Your attention rests inside the rhythm, and the rest of the world gets quiet. Sasha reaches the last landing before the top terrace. Most of the stair now holds a clear, even glow that pools without flicker. Shadows no longer pile up. They stretch and settle, giving each step its distinct edge. Only one dark step remains, a small gap in the pattern. The wind flirts with the wick there, drawing it toward the side glass, then letting it spring back. The lantern will not commit to a stable flame. He crouches and waits until the breeze eases for a heartbeat. He opens the cap halfway to let heat escape slowly. He turns the wick a fraction, straightening the fiber so it feeds clean. He brings his other hand up, cups the lantern on two sides, and lowers his face close enough to feel the warmth on his cheeks. He breathes across the top, a long, gentle exhale that smooths the flame without stretching it thin. The wick catches a calm, even blue at the base, then fills into a soft amber crown. The light blooms warm. The step gains its contour, and the staircase regains an easy rhythm that draws the eye upward without strain. He watches one more cycle, and then another, to be sure the breeze will not steal the stability he has coaxed back. He stands and looks down the run of steps. The glow now moves like a slow tide, crest to crest, each lantern brightening and easing in a shared cadence. Footfalls in the district take on that same tone, measured, content, unhurried. The path that had asked for caution now offers a gentle welcome. With the steps aligned, Sasha turns toward the upper lane. The light along the edge forms a soft guide that leads to the canal terraces, where ropes, bridges, and moorings sway in their own quiet patterns, waiting for the same patient hands. Let's pause for a breath and let the exhale stretch a little longer than the inhale, so the body can settle into a soft, steady calm. As you rest there, feel how sound can guide attention the way a shoreline guides a wave. It gives the mind a gentle edge to follow, so it can ease into a deep state of rest. Aya steps beneath a vaulted arcade that runs along the canal. The ceiling curves like a ribbed shell, and rows of wind chimes hang at even intervals, mapped to the known currents that move through this corridor at night. Each chime is part of a scale tuned to the water's slow drift in the steady land breeze. Brass tubes, reed pipes, shell discs, and small glass bells make a soft constellation of sound. Tonight, the Leviathan's stir has shifted their balance. When the air flows, notes meet and then rub. The gentle blur of echo in the vault turns into a haze. A high bell peals a fraction early. A low reed drones a touch long. The middle tones fall between, and instead of a simple wash, the ear hears soft clashing waves. Aya stands still and listens for the underlying beat that the arcade wants to keep. The city still holds that slow, shared breath, but here it drifts. She moves to the first row and rests her fingers on a set of chords. Knots that should sit flat have rolled a half turn. She smooths them, aligning the grains so they lay in the direction of the pull. She slides a small weight along a brass tube, just a finger's width, then waits. The tone lifts a shade and settles. On the next chime, she checks the reed pipe's angle, guiding its mouth toward the canal breeze that usually arrives from the left. The sound brightens. Two notes now meet kindly, and the echo carries a single line instead of a smear. Sound works like a soft map for the body. When tones repeat in a stable way, attention can rest. Consistent auditory patterns help the nervous system drift toward quiet. In steady soundscapes, orientation feels easy. The ear knows where it is, and stress can subside. She slides along the arcade, methodical and calm. A shell disc taps the edge of a glass bell, chiming a bittersweet minor that lingers. Aya lifts the cord, eases a bead down by a notch, and reties a slip knot. The cord warms, moving from minor to a gentle major. She tests it with a breath, and the interval holds. Farther on, a small cluster rings in dissonance, a suspended tone that never resolves. She adds a thin reed to one side, changes the length by a thumb width, and the cluster softens into a pentatonic wash that spreads like warm water over stone. The echoes catch that wash and repeat it once, then fade clean. You can let your breath mirror this tuning. Inhale as if finding the note, exhale to settle it. Each long release is like sliding a weight along a string, bringing the tone into balance. The predictability helps your mind ease and drift off. Aya hums a melody she and Sasha share, low and slow. The arcade answers, not perfectly, but close enough to feel like a tender chord. It moves along the ceiling ribs and back, meeting her voice with a calm reply. She follows the sound with her steps, adjusting knots as she goes, aligning reed mouths, cleaning the lips of tubes with a soft cloth so no grit catches the air. She keeps the process simple and repetitive. Check, slide, listen, adjust, breathe, listen. The motions take little effort, and that makes the body trust the routine. Notes begin to line up the way lanterns had along the stair. Minor roughness slides into pleasant consonants. The chimes find a rhythm that feels like the slow turn of a tide. At the midpoint, a string of glass bells resists. Their pitch wavers when the breeze lifts. Aya checks the anchor knot. The fibers have loosened along the bar. She retwists them, lays them flat, and secures with a half hitch and a tuck. She cleans a thin film from one bell, then waits for the next breath of air. The sound returns with a soft clarity, the kind that does not ask the ear to work. She pauses, and you can pause with her. Let the exhale lengthen. Let the jaw loosen. The space behind the eyes can rest. The arcade's new chord grows even, and that evenness is a comfort. Near the end of the hall, one stubborn chime holds a sour tone. It hangs from a wire that swings in tiny circles, never settling long enough to glide into tune. The air stalls there, snagged by a corner where the wall meets the arch. The note arrives late, then early, then late again, like a thought that will not rest. Aya stands close and listens for the shape of the breeze. She lifts the chime, stops the swing with a palm, and tracks the draft with her face until she finds a smooth path. A small bead hangs on the cord above the tube. It sits a touch high where the common wind cannot push it. She pinches it and draws it down just a breath. The next gust moves through. The chime's mouth meets the air at the right angle. The tone slips into place, the sour edge dissolves, and the vaulted hall gives a long, contented sigh. Echoes return clean, one blossom of sound, then rest. She hums their melody again. The arcade returns it, warm and open, a quiet beacon braided through stone. She does not press for more. The system now holds. The scales read the current the way they were built to, and the notes guide the ear in a soft arc toward the canal. Feel free to drift off if sleep comes close. The sound will continue, gentle and sure. It asks for nothing. Aya steps out of the arcade and looks down canal. The tuned tones spread along the water in low ribbons. They align with lantern reflections that now hold steady bands of light. Boat ropes stop rubbing and lay quiet. The city uses these cues to find its breath again, and those same cues can lull your body toward slumber. She lifts her hand and lets the last note ring on her fingertip, then turns toward the flow. Somewhere ahead, the gatehouse waits, and beyond that, the moon bridge. The melody she coaxed into place drifts behind her, guiding anyone who hears it. It moves slow and even, the way a shoreline holds a wave, and it carries the night forward in a calm, welcoming line. Sasha reaches a rope bridge that links two terrace lanes. Lanterns hang from the side cables in a tidy row, but tonight they sway out of phase. One lifts when the next drops. The walkway tilts a little, then recovers, then tilts again, guiding feet in a wavering line that asks for careful steps. The glow paints moving bands across the planks, so the eyes must work to track where to land. At the abutments, the ropes rub against their housings with a low cotton groan. It isn't strain, just friction made louder by the uneven sway. The cadence unsettles balance. The body expects a gentle back and forth, yet the bridge offers a syncopated motion, an offbeat that nudges at the ankles and hips and keeps the center of gravity alert. Sasha stops before the first plank and rests both hands on the rail. He waits for the long swell of movement to pass, then counts a slow cycle of breath. Inhale to note the tilt, exhale to feel the return. He studies the turnbuckles that set the tension on the sidelines. They sit well within their range, only a touch soft on the left. He decides on small corrections. He kneels at the nearest iron post. The metal is cool and carries the faint scent of brine and old oil. He wraps his palm with a cloth to soften the grip, and with the other hand, he holds the rail to steady his focus. He turns the first buckle a quarter turn. Then he stops. He breathes out and watches. No rush, just a quiet check, so the bridge can tell him what it wants. The lantern nearest him starts to find the beat of its neighbor. It does not match yet, but the difference narrows, like a pair of waves that begin to share a crest. He tightens the next buckle a quarter turn as well. Tighten, exhale, pause, watch. He lets the longer exhale help his hand stay patient, and the bridge answers with a slightly slower sway. Gentle effort works best when paired with breath. When movement and exhale meet, steadiness improves and focus becomes more comfortable to hold. There's no need to grip hard or rush. The body trusts a calm pace. The bridge seems to trust it too. Sasha crosses to the opposite side so the adjustments balance. He tightens the matching buckle by the same small measure. He waits through one, then two slow breaths. The lanterns along this side begin to sync with the far row. The space between their peaks narrows to a soft blink. The walkway's tilt eases toward a mild, predictable arc. He steps onto the first plank. It yields, then rises in a smooth count. He moves to the second post and makes the same quiet change, a quarter turn and rest. The rope grows warm under his cloth, a sign that friction is spreading out instead of catching in a single point. He listens for the rub at the housings. The low groan fades into a hush that only appears at the end of each swing. Feel free to let your breathing echo his method. Inhale for a count that feels easy. Exhale a touch longer. As you do, notice how your shoulders release a little and how the jaw softens. This is how the nervous system reads safety. Steady, predictable cues repeated without effort. Halfway across, the center span still wobbles more than the ends. It holds the most freedom, and the stir in the deep left a memory there. A single lantern near the middle spins on its hook, catching the faintest eddy and turning, then turning back, then turning again. It pulls the eye and makes the line look uneven. Sasha checks the hook. It's sound, only polished by years of small motion. He doesn't stop the lantern with force. He slows its turn with a fingertip, then lets it spin once more to see how the air moves around it. The spin resumes. He pulls a strip of soft cloth from his pocket, the same gentle weave he uses on glass, and wraps the hook's shank with one neat pass. He sets the lantern back on the wrapped hook. The cloth adds just enough friction to damp the spin without pinching. He gives it a small test swing. It moves, then settles. The next breath of air lifts it lightly and lets it rest in line with the others. The eye relaxes, freed from that stray motion. He returns to the turnbuckles near the center and makes 2 more quarter turns, one on each side. Tighten, exhale, pause. Watch the lanterns begin to match their neighbors again. The offbeat softens. The ropes hum at a lower note now, calm and even. The bridge draws into a shallow, steady curve like a bow at rest. Patience holds more weight than muscle here. The city does not ask to be fixed with force. It asks to be met with the same kindness that its canals give to every boat that glides over them. Sasha keeps his breath slow and lets the bridge come to stillness the way a pond clears after the smallest stone. The lanterns line up, their glow making a soft run of coins along the rail. He walks the length once, then back again, checking each post with his fingers. No hot spots, no sudden tightness. The planks answer underfoot with a steady tip and return, easy to predict. He leans at the midpoint and looks down through the gaps. The water below moves in long, even bands, reflections smoothed by the new rhythm. You can let that image settle inside. A calm arc, a balanced sway, and your own breathing as the gentle hand on the turnbuckle. If sleep begins to rise, allow it. You can drift off at any time, and the story will keep moving softly without asking anything of you. Sasha lifts his gaze toward the far bank. Beyond the bridge, the night stretches into a market district where lanterns hang in clusters, each with colored glass and polished mirrors. Their trade depends on the steadiness of light, and tonight they will welcome a calm path. He gives the rail one last touch, grateful for the way it rests now. The ropes no longer rub in complaint. The lanterns meet their neighbors with small nods of shared timing. The walkway feels like a breath held and a breath released, nothing more complicated than that. The bridge settles into a quiet equilibrium, a gentle arc from stone to stone. With that steadiness in place, the way ahead opens. Sasha steps off the last plank and onto firm terrace blocks, where the glow from many stalls softens the edges of the lane and invites unhurried steps toward the lantern markets. Aya steps into the lantern market. Stalls stand in tidy rows along a broad square, each table covered with polished brass, colored glass, and jars of oil. Here, light is the language of trade. A steady glow earns steady trust, and trust sets the price without a single raised voice. Tonight, the glow falters. Half the stalls flicker, colors lean too warm or too cold, and filters sit a touch crooked on their frames. A low murmur hangs in the air, not loud, just a soft worry that thickens like mist. The market wants calm, yet the lights give mixed signals, and eyes work hard to read them. Aya moves with a quiet pace. She greets a lampmaker with a nod and lifts a chimney glass to the side, where she can see a fine film of soot. She cleans it with a cloth and turns the wick down to rest the flame. Then she trims the carbon tip, restores the height, and lowers the chimney back into place. The light rounds and holds, as if relieved to be seen. At the next stall, the oil is a shade heavy. The flame breathes, then stumbles, a sign that the mix needs balance. Aya pours a small measure of lighter oil from a shared jar, rolls the reservoir gently between her palms, and watches the flame even out. She keeps her motion slow so the lamp can settle without stress. Across the aisle, filters of rose and amber have slipped, throwing uneven bands of color onto a tray of shell-inlaid mirrors. Aya loosens a tiny screw, realigns the ring, and turns the filter until the hue softens into something easy on the eyes. The mirrors catch that new tone and send it back without glare. Communities rest better when small goals are shared. When hands move together on simple tasks, wicks at the same height, lenses clean, oil balanced, stress eases, and trust grows. This kind of collaborative repair tells the body and the town that help is close and effort is light. You can let your breath follow that sense of shared rhythm. Inhale for ease, exhale to settle. Each long release is like smoothing a wick so the flame can hold steady. A glassworker steps over, holding a lens the color of pale sea ice. It's a gift for the stall across from her, where a bright lamp throws a sharp beam that makes shoppers squint. The pale blue lens cools the glare and lays a soft wash of light over the table. The merchant smiles, unknots her shoulders, and nods, thanks without a word. Nearby, a stonecutter offers a small travertine base to a vendor whose tall lamp wobbles on a thin stand. The heavier base pins the lamp to the ground. The flame steadies. The stall's colors return to their true tones, and a couple lingers longer, reading the quality of the glass with relaxed eyes. The market remembers these gestures. Goodwill moves faster than coins tonight. A knot tier fixes a frayed cord on a neighbor's canopy, and in return, receives a clean wick bundle for the morning rush. One stall lends a dropper for oil, another shares a soft brush for dust in the hinge. The square fills with quiet, purposeful motion. Aya keeps to her process. She offers a steady hand, not a lecture. She recalibrates oil, cleans lenses, and sets wick heights to match. When a lamp pulls too much air, she shifts the vent just a fraction and waits for the flame to respond. Every small success lowers a little of the unease, like ripples smoothing after a stone settles. Feel free to drift off whenever the pull of sleep comes your way. The tasks are gentle and repetitive. They carry the mind without effort. A child watches from a corner crate, chin in hands, tracking the way a flame grows calm when the glass is clear. Aya smiles and lets the child turn the wick knob one notch. The flame rises, then sits right at the threshold where brightness meets rest. The child's eyes widen. then soften, as if a puzzle has learned to answer itself. At the market's heart, a central lamp remains dull. It hangs from a tall post above a low stone bench where people usually sit to talk. Tonight, the lamp's mirror is tarnished, the surface clouded by a thin gray bloom. The flame inside is healthy, yet the light it casts feels tired, as if the square can't quite gather around it. The merchants glance toward it in turns. No one hurries. They are busy at their own stalls, but the center calls for a final touch. Aya walks to the post and runs her fingers along the mirror's rim. The metal is cool and the glass is warm from the lamp's breath. She lifts the small latch, swings the mirror out, and fixes it in a gentle tilt. She takes a soft cloth and a drop of oil from a shared bottle at the base. With slow circles, she works from the edge to the middle. The gray film loosens and rises into the cloth. The mirror returns to a clear, deep tone, not bright like a blaze, but open, ready to gather light and lay it down evenly. She closes the latch, breathes over the flame to round it, and steps back a pace. The lamp throws a soft, even glow across the square. Hard shadows soften, faces relax, chatter returns lower and calmer, like the sound of waves sliding under a dock. The market feels held. You can let that feeling settle into your body. Just allow your breathing to stretch. Let the exhale smooth out and notice how the muscles in your face ease when light becomes even. Stalls adjust their last details. A lens turns by a degree. A wick lowers a hair. The pooled glow across the square becomes a single steady field. Trade resumes in quiet voices. People take their time. The air smells like clean oil and warm stone. As the market brightens, a canal keeper arrives at the edge of the square. He watches the new evenness in the light, nods once, and points down a narrow lane toward the water. There, the steps fall away to the underwater halls, where slow echoes are waiting. Aya thanks him with a small bow, and the square answers with one more gentle wave of calm, as steady as your next long, easy breath. He descends toward the underwater halls by a stair cut into pale stone, damp and cool. The air changes at each step, turning from open night salt to a softer mineral scent. Down below, arches spread in long rows, and each arch holds sound the way a bell holds tone. Footfalls travel, bloom, and hang in the vaulted space, then return in slow, rounded echoes. Valves whisper behind the walls, a thin rush that never rises. Gates hum with a low, even note, yet the echoes loop back on themselves, meeting the next sound a half-beat late, then a half-beat early, so direction feels blurred. It is not loud, it is layered, and that layering makes the ear work to tell near from far. Sasha stops at the first landing and listens with his palm on the rail. The stone carries a gentle vibration that maps the room without strain. He knows these halls use small diffusers to manage sound, a line of shells and little brass plates placed on ribs and corners to break reflections before they stack. Tonight, some have shifted. He opens a pouch and takes out a cloth and a short-handled key. The first shell sits crooked on a peg. He turns it by a finger's breadth and waits. The next step he takes comes back as one clean echo instead of two. A loop that had chased itself around the arch loses its tail, and the space grows easier to read. Architects often tame vaulted rooms by breaking up smooth paths of sound. Even small shapes, shells, plates, shallow grooves, scatter a wave so it returns softer and later, keeping it from clinging to the next note. It isn't complex to feel. When echoes spread out, the ear relaxes, and the nervous system follows. Sasha moves along the wall and lifts a brass plate that leans into the corridor. He shifts it a hand's breadth toward the arch and tilts the edge by a notch. He walks and taps the floor with the heel of his palm. One footfall returns as a single round pulse, not a flutter, and the body stops bracing. He breathes, and you can let your breath match that pace. Inhale gently, then let the exhale pour out longer. With every long release, attention softens, like a tone finding a kind place to rest. At the next bay, the valves give a higher whisper, and the hum at the gate fattens the air with a low thread. Two loose markers, small clamshells bound with thin wire, swing in slow circles and throw sound around the corner. He stills them with 2 fingers and shortens their leash by 1 rap. The circles fade. The whisper shifts from scattered to smooth. He keeps the motion simple and repeated. Check the marker. Adjust the tilt. Listen. Then hold for 2 breaths and listen again. Routine makes effort feel light. The halls answer by becoming less busy, less eager to echo for the sake of echo. From deeper in the stone, a soft phrase rises, and it feels like Aya's melody, pared down to a thin line, traveling through pillars and water. It rests on the ribs of the ceiling, then glides across the arch and slips past him. He pauses and hums 2 notes under his breath, low and slow, and the space carries them onward like a hand passing a warm cup. The floor slopes toward a pressure door where the lower corridors meet a maintenance run. The round wheel there shows a line of condensation beads. He turns it, and the wheel answers with a soft, stubborn groan. It is not strain. It is a difference in pressure on the other side, holding it in place until levels match. He does not force. He moves the wheel a fraction, then stops. He rests his hand on the spoke and counts a slow measure under his breath. The whisper at the valves shifts tone, and the hum at the gate lowers by a step. The air equalizes in degrees, almost like a tide coming to meet a dock. Feel free to drift off as the rhythm grows steady. You can allow the mind to ride the evenness, confident that every simple change carries the space toward quiet. He returns to the echo markers by the door and checks a plate that sits too flat against the wall. A flat plate throws sound back as a sheet. He eases the bottom edge away by a coin's thickness, turning it into a little wing. The returning wave breaks and doesn't stack. The loop that had confused direction no longer reaches the door. He tries the wheel again. It moves more freely now, yet still asks for patience. He gives a careful half-turn. Air glides through a seal, and the note of the room drops like a string tuned to the right tension. The door eases against its stop with a quiet, satisfied kiss. Silence is never empty in a place like this. It is full of soft things that hold then fade. A heel touches stone, one echo returns, the next does not pile on. The room breathes without haze. As the hush deepens, Aya's faint melody appears again, clearer this time, as if the stone has chosen to let that line pass without breaking it. Sasha smiles, small and certain, and adjusts one last shell to keep that path open. You might feel your jaw loosen now. The tongue can rest against the roof of the mouth. The shoulders can sink. Even sounds in your own room can spread out and soften the way these echoes have. He walks the length of the hall once more, tapping out a gentle count with the side of his thumb along the rail. One return. Pause. One return. The ear stops searching for edges to defend. Direction becomes simple again. Forward is forward, left is left, right is right. He wipes a thin line of moisture from a marker so it won't slip back, then steps through the door he has eased. The air on the far side is cooler, touched by a slow drift that comes from the main channel. He notes the difference and lets his breathing match it, long in, longer out. Valves murmur contentment. The hum at the big gate settles into a single low tone, steady and soft. The arches no longer carry loops. They hold a clear path, and that path points toward the canal gates that guide the city's flow. Sasha lifts the pouch to his shoulder and starts along the corridor where that low tone grows a touch stronger. The floor slopes in a friendly way. Lantern light from above spills down the wall in steady sheets. And in that calm, he moves toward the gates, where water waits for gentle, well-timed hands. The gatehouse waits at the bend of the canal, low and solid, with windows cut to watch the surface. Inside, charts line the walls, tracing flow lines in pale chalk, and beside them, moon dials show the tide's slow rise and fall. Brass indicators rest on pegs, small hands pointing to the city's pulse. The air smells of damp stone and clean oil, and a low rush whispers through sluice throats below the floor. Tonight, the gates sit a fraction off. Back eddies gather behind the piers and uncurl with small, restless turns. On the water, lantern reflections lose their smooth bands and break into uneven stripes, like threads that won't lie flat. The sound of flow isn't harsh, only unsettled, a soft shiver that keeps the eye working to read the surface. Aya steps to the central console, palms resting lightly on the rail. Below, the main gate stands open a little more than its partner. On the panel, two levers show that difference. One is a notch high, one is a notch low. She studies the chalk marks where canal keepers record ideal settings for this tide. A thin white line tracks the preferred rise along the wall just above the waterline. She watches the surface for a few breaths. The pattern repeats, then falters, then repeats again. She chooses her first correction. With a steady hand, she lifts the left sluice one measure. The mechanism answers with a quiet murmur and yields by a hair. She pauses to let the water speak. Across the channel, a standing whirl loosens. The uneven stripe in the reflections thins. She lowers the right sluice by the same small amount. The panel hums and rests. She waits. The bands begin to stretch into long, parallel threads that move with an easy pace. Minor adjustments in flow reduce turbulence. Smooth paths form when edges are even. In water, this shows up as laminar patterns, where layers slide without mixing. When that happens, motion grows predictable, and the whole system becomes easier to read. Your nervous system responds the same way to steady cues, easing toward quiet when the world stops tugging at it from many angles. Aya keeps her breath long and even, matching the measured responses of the gates. She traces a fingertip over the chalk line on the wall, then looks down to see how close the surface sits. It rises with the next swell and rests right at that mark, then returns to it again. The confirmation is quiet, but sure. She moves to a secondary control, a small wheel that angles a guide vane just ahead of the downstream pier. It is off by a shallow degree, sending a tiny curl back toward the lift gate. She turns the wheel a fraction. The curl unrolls, then dissolves. Reflections grow smoother, drifting like silk laid flat. Or you can let your breath mirror that. Inhale to note the shape. Exhale to set it true. With each long release, your body finds the same easy thread the water is learning now. She watches the panel lamps that indicate pressure on each side of the gates. The glow shifts from uneven to level. A slight vibration in the rail fades. The hush of flow settles into one low tone instead of a cluster of close notes. She checks the moon dial, a slow arc of brass with a sliver of light, then returns to the main levers to confirm they are balanced. Outside the window, lantern bands that once shivered now lie in clean lines. Boats moored along the quay stop tugging at their ropes and begin to breathe in the same count. The market's glow upstream joins that rhythm and draws a broad, gentle stripe across the gatehouse wall. Small corrections, well-timed, can bring a whole night toward ease. Aya stays with the process, not rushing, not holding back. She listens to the room, the way seals whisper when they're comfortable, the way hinges stay quiet when tension is right. When she lifts by a shade. When she lowers to match. The water answers with gratitude that shows in movement rather than words. Feel free to drift off if sleep approaches. The steps remain steady and soft, and the story will carry you without effort. She turns to the last control, a lever set apart in a brass cradle. It feeds the moon bridge channel, guiding a slender current that helps the span settle true. The pointer sits a hair off its center mark. Not much, yet enough to alter the bridge's gentle ease. She rests her palm on the handle and waits through a full breath, in and out, letting her own cadence match the city's renewed rhythm. A bell cord hangs beside the lever, connected to a small striker near the bridge. When the feeder flow aligns, the bell will offer a single note. Aya glances at the chalk, then at the small brass ruler etched into the cradle. She draws the lever back by a breath, holds, then completes the motion with a careful press to center. The water rearranges itself in steps too smooth to see directly, but the clues are there. The thin ribbon in the channel stretches. A small spin near the far abutment vanishes. On the wall, the chalk line remains matched. Her fingers stay on the handle to feel for vibration. There is none. A soft chime rings once. Not a loud strike, a clear, clean note that settles quickly into the room. The feeder current has come true. The moon bridge will feel that cue and lean into balance. Aya exhales, long and warm. The gatehouse seems to exhale with her. Reflections outside hold their parallel threads without wavering. The city's lights begin to fall into step, each canal giving back an even band that folds into the next. She watches a moment more, then lifts the latch that keeps the controls at rest. She closes her eyes and listens to the single low tone of flow and to her own breathing meeting it. This is how a place returns to time. One measured nudge, then another, until the whole field lives in steady motion. Beyond the window, the current runs like a calm path set for two steady pairs of feet. Sasha will feel it under the plank of a landing. Aya already feels it in her shoulders, and the lights guide both travelers toward the same arc of stone, where the span waits with its seam ready to meet. Beneath Atlantis, the Leviathan turns more slowly now. Its body moves like a continent in the dark, unhurried and sure. A broad tail folds and unfolds across the thermocline, and the boundary between warm and cool water shifts as if a heavy blanket is being smoothed by careful hands. Layers slide, and the sea resets its quiet order. Every so often, a pulse rises from below, gentle but large enough to touch the city's edges. A lantern bows to it, and then stands. A chime leans off pitch, then finds its note again. The canal water shows a faint shiver that widens and passes. Nothing startles. It is a lingering rhythm, like a memory that still wants to speak. The city listens and answers in balance. Lanterns hold their steady bloom, matched across alleys and quays. Gates in the channels rest at clean settings. Their hums agree on one even tone. Echoes that once looped in the halls now open and fade in orderly turns. These cues gather like threads and weave into something the deep can read. Large beings in water send slow waves through the world around them. Low pulses carry far and can color the space they pass through. Yet a stable environment dampens how those waves are felt. When surfaces are even and patterns are steady, the signals find room to stretch out, and the disturbance softens into the background. You can hear it in the way the night changes its pace. As the city signals steady, the deep pulse elongates. The gaps between rises grow long and even, like the breath of a sleeper who has let the last worry drift away. One quiet surge touches a ring of lamps, and they respond almost together. The next arrives later, gentler, and it slips through without asking for a correction. Sasha, crossing a terrace lane, keeps his steps on that slower count. He places a hand to a rail and feels the wood return the city's rhythm like a heartbeat through the palm. Aya walks the canal bank, and her fingers brush the stone. The low tone in the water meets the tune she set in the chime arcade. Apart in distance, they move as if guided by the same metronome. You can let your breathing join this pace. Long inhale, longer exhale. Each release a sign to your nervous system that the world is predictable again, that signals match, and that you can safely drift off or stay just at the edge of slumber. Down below, the Leviathan coils and uncoils less often. The thermocline no longer buckles, it smooths and lies in gentle layers. Sediment settles back onto the sea floor like fine dust on a shelf that has stopped trembling. A few fish with silver flanks adjust their path and resume quiet arcs along the columns of a drowned colonnade. Another pulse arrives, lighter than before. A lantern's flame slips a fraction, then rounds. A chime offers a slight wobble, then rests. The city's evenness absorbs the movement and returns calm to the surface. The water in a feeder channel lays itself into parallel lines that stretch without breaking, and the eye relaxes with them. Sasha's breath lengthens as he pauses at a junction. He lets the longer exhale do the work of easing the shoulders, like a hand smoothing cloth on a bed. Aya mirrors that breath as she leans in toward a window, watching reflections draw lacquered stripes on the sill. Their bodies converse with the city, no words needed, only the trade of stable signals. The deep answers. The Leviathan's ribs expand, then fall, at a pace that matches what the streets now keep. Its head settles deeper where the rock holds a basin warm from vents that glow faintly. A fin tilts once, and a soft wave lifts the base of the outer pilings, Old timbers feel the nudge and then go quiet. Feel free to drift off whenever the pull of sleep comes your way. The night has chosen long measures and simple patterns. You can rest inside them. For a moment, the sea trials everything that has been set in order. One last tremor moves upward, not a shake, just a breadth of motion larger than the recent sighs. Lantern reflections waver as a single broad band tilt, then hold their places again. Chimes lean against the change and then return to their tuned chord without a scrape. Gates keep their straight hum unbothered. The city proves its balance. Sasha feels that test pass through the rail, like a slow bell pressed into wood. Aya hears it in the water, a round vowel that opens and closes. Both pause on the same breath without knowing, giving the deep a little room to finish its turn. The pulse fades. The Leviathan stretches and then folds itself into a coil that suits the bowl of bedrock beneath. Silt rises in a faint cloud and drops back to the floor. The thermocline lies flat. Layers of water slide without friction, and the pressure on the old stones becomes even all around. Above, the lantern path gleams in a single calm thread, unbroken from step to step, key to key, bridge to bridge. The glow loses all hitch and carries a steady invitation toward the center of the city. The chime arcade holds a tender harmony that doesn't ask the ear to work. The underwater halls breathe once and then keep their quiet. You can allow your jaw to loosen and your tongue to rest. Let the exhale broaden. Let the chest sink. Your body can trust what it hears and sees because the cues now match in every direction. Down in the dark, the Leviathan sleeps, not far, but far enough that only the good part of its presence remains, a kind of grounded gravity that keeps time slow. The seabed quiets. Small crabs pause in their paths, then resume with less hurry. Kelp along the outer walls leans one way and stays there, comforted by a single gentle flow. Sasha turns into a lane that meets the canal feeding the moon bridge. Aya steps out from a gatehouse door and follows the stripe of reflections that lie straight as a ruler on the water. Their strides lengthen a touch, not from haste, but from ease, carried by the same even pull that has returned to the city. I want you to notice the warmth that comes when everything agrees. Light with light, tone with tone, water with water, breath with breath. This is what persuades an ancient being to rest, a world around it that does not tug, does not swarm, does not crowd the senses, but offers one slow, dependable beat. The night holds that beat now. A lantern's glass clicks softly as it settles in its frame. A rope stops whispering against stone. The smallest ripple runs out and disappears, and with the deep at peace, the moon bridge awaits. Sasha and Aya reach the opposite ramps of the moon bridge as the first pale gray of dawn touches the water. Stone holds the night's cool, and a thin stripe of light rests on the arch like a soft ribbon. The canal lies calm beneath, carrying clean bands of lantern glow that drift toward the center span. Nothing rushes. The bridge waits the way a doorway waits, open, still, and sure. They pause for a last check. Sasha rests a palm on the rail, feeling for any pulse that might break the rhythm. Aya watches the seam at the crown, looking for the true kiss of stone to stone. Lanterns lift and settle in a shared measure. The air over the arch feels steady, no snags, no stray gust. Their bodies answer with the same even pace, shoulders low, jaw loose, breath long and unforced. You can let your breath match that steadiness. Inhale gently. Exhale as if smoothing a sheet. When cues align, light, sound, movement, the nervous system reads safety and allows tension to ease. Predictable patterns are like a soft path underfoot. They help the mind drift off or hover at the edge of slumber without strain. Footsteps start toward the arch from both sides, a modest rhythm of leather on stone. The first taps meet at the center as if a clock has found its true beat. Around them, the city's glow folds into a thin halo, a low, even shine that touches the curve of the span and the inside of the balustrade. Chimes from the distant arcade hold a soft chord, nothing showy, just the right notes sustaining one another without effort. They stop 2 steps apart. There is no hurry. They trade the simple gesture that belongs to them alone, the same nod they shared when the bridge first slipped. It completes the night's quiet pact, as if a line begun earlier has now found its end mark. In that small sign, anticipation resolves into rest, and the body picks up the message. Anticipation resolved with predictable patterns releases tension and supports rest. It is why your shoulders settle when the lights fall into a clean cadence, and why your breath lengthens when the same tone repeats without wobble. The mind no longer scans for the next change. It trusts what arrives. Sasha and Aya close the distance. Fingers meet, and then hands, and then they step into each other's arms with no rush, just warmth and breath. Their chests rise and fall in the same slow count, and it feels like the whole span breathes with them. The seam at the crown stays true. The rail stays still. The lanterns on either side offer their calm, even bloom. If you wish, let your own breath join their count. Light inhale, longer exhale. Each long release is a small sign to the body that it may rest. You can allow the face to soften, the eyes to grow heavy, and the mouth to unfurl at the corners, as if a kind thought had just found its place. Dawn lingers on the edge. It does not press. The canal holds still like a page before the next line, blank yet promising, the way a quiet room waits for someone to choose a chair and sit. The water's surface shows one continuous line of light from key to key, neither broken nor crossed. Even the smallest ripples move in polite rows. A gull shifts on a piling and settles again, approving of the quiet. From the underwater halls, a second's worth of echo drifts up and then disappears. The market stalls, wiped clean of night's worry, stand with shutters half open, their colors washed in cool gray. You might feel that coolness across your cheeks, soft and agreeable, like a fresh sheet drawn over warm skin. They loosen their hold, only slightly, enough to see each other's faces in the early light. No words come. They aren't needed. The nod was the conversation. The city's timing did the rest. Their palms remain joined as they step to the center stone, one foot and then the other, so their weight rests where the bridge finds balance. The lanterns along the arch shimmer once, a collective breath, and then settle into a deeper stillness. The effect lands gently in the body, like a quiet exhale after a good stretch. The ropes at distant moorings give a small, satisfied creak and fall silent. The last trace of misalignment loses its grip and fades into the background. Feel free to drift off whenever the pull of sleep comes your way. The scene will stay simple, even if your attention loosens. The steps are small. The cues are kind. The story asks nothing of you. They turn their heads slightly, listening for any sign the deep has more to say. It doesn't. The Leviathan has taken the hint and rests in its soft basin of warmth. The water above holds even layers. The chimes hold their chord. The gates hum one level note. Everything agrees without effort. Sasha draws a longer breath and lets it go, an easy wave. Aya mirrors the shape of it, and the moment swells without swelling, like a tide that advances only a finger width and yet touches all the shore. In their stillness, time opens a door, not by force but by alignment, the way a latch lifts when weight is balanced and hinges are clean. This is the quiet answer to the question of why some places feel right. The signals match and the body knows. The bridge holds true. The air is steady. The light carries in one thread. The ear finds no edge to brace against. The mind can rest upon that smoothness, the way a hand rests on warm stone. Their arms return to their sides, but their hands stay linked. They step forward together, letting their footfalls share a single rhythm, soft steps that do not ask the span to prove anything more. The halo about the arch grows a shade brighter as the sky's gray lifts toward pearl, and the water receives that change without ripple. You can soften in the same way. Let the breath spread through the ribs and leave as a sigh that never needs to be heard. Let the spine release a notch. Let the bed carry you like the bridge carries them. The city's rhythm feels whole, and with that wholeness, there is only soft morning and easier breaths. Shutters lift on quiet hinges. Artisans open their stalls with slow hands, setting tools on clean cloth, brushing a fingertip across glass to check for dust. A potter leans a finished shade to the sun. A lens grinder turns a wheel once to hear if it hums true. Canal keepers stand with notebooks, jotting small lines about flow and level. Chimes along the arcades hold their tune without effort, offering light notes that don't ask the ear to work. Calm rests across the city, yet a memory lingers in the stones and in the shoulders that carried the night. It's a gentle echo, a reminder that balance is tended. The bridge holds true now, and the lantern bands lie smooth, but the people keep a soft awareness, the way one listens for a kettle even after it has been set aside. This is not worry. It is care that stays awake in a kind, steady way. You can let your breath do the same, relaxed but mindful. Long inhale, longer exhale. Each cycle a small check that keeps ease in place. Sasha and Aya meet beside a quiet quay where ropes dry in even coils. With chalk and a folded map, they plan a day of light touches. No long rounds, just a handful of paths that keep the city's rhythm ready to be found again whenever it drifts. He marks a lane of stair lamps that enjoy a check at noon when the breeze changes. She circles a set of guide ropes on a terrace bridge that prefer a quarter turn after the first ferry passes. Together, they star a sluice view from the lower gatehouse, where a glance at reflections tells much without a measurement. They walk the first route as the sun lifts. At a stair landing, Sasha lifts a chimney and trims a wick by a whisper. He lowers the glass and waits through a breath to see the flame round and stay. At the terrace bridge, Aya tests a turnbuckle with a cloth-wrapped hand, settles for a quarter turn, and rests. At the gatehouse window, both lean to watch the light lay straight ribbons on the water. They write a brief note, close the notebook, and move on. Small rituals like these hold a place steady. When repeated with kindness, they signal safety to the nervous system and reduce the charge of the next surprise. Micro-maintenance is a way of telling the body and the city that troubles can be met early, with simple motions. It's like smoothing a sheet each morning so creases never grow sharp. You can try a simple cadence in your own mind as you relax here. Light, tighten, tune. 3 small words, 3 small acts. They form a daily rhythm that pacifies the places where unease likes to hide. By mid-morning, they settle into those 3 steps. Light. They lift and clean 1 lantern on each block, trimming carbon, easing the wick to a height that glows without strain. Tighten. They check a handful of ropes at the ends of bridges and ramps, giving each a quarter turn where needed and pausing to feel the change. Tune. They listen at the arcade doors, nudging a bead or sliding a weight by a breath to keep the chord that people relax into as they pass. The work does not pull. It moves like a steady tide, and they move with it. A mooring ring gives a contented creak and goes silent. A lamp's halo sheds its harsh edge and becomes a soft pool. A chime that drifted returns to the note that sits kindly between 2 others. Notes in the margin say only what helps the next hand. 1 notch, wait, listen. As they walk, shopkeepers add their own tiny rites. A lens is turned by the width of a fingernail. A wick knob gains a drop of oil to keep it smooth. A rope end is whipped so it won't fray. People take these moments without rush, almost as a greeting to the day. The city answers with quiet, predictable cues that ease the mind. Practice builds a gentle resilience. When a pattern is kept with small daily touches, stress finds fewer edges to catch on. Rituals anchor attention and simplify the next choice. There's nothing grand about it. It's just a way to meet the world before it asks too much. You can let your breathing join that ritual now. Light on the inhale, soft and easy. Tighten on the exhale, only enough to draw the air long and smooth. Tune in the pause, letting the body notice how rested it feels. By late afternoon, Sasha notes a lane where lantern steps like to be checked at twilight. Aya notes that the feeder channel enjoys a glance when the first evening boat glides past. Their marks become part of a shared map that anyone can follow. A quiet wisdom that will hold even if either of them is away for a night. Their night together has joined the city's memory the way a clean song joins a chorus. The care they gave has become ordinary in the best way, folded into habits rather than held apart as a tale. That ordinariness brings peace because it promises that calm is not a rare visitor. It's a neighbor one greets with a nod each day. The sky slips toward evening again. The stairs carry a soft wash of light. The chime arcade breathes its lean chord. Canal keepers close notebooks with a dry rustle and set them on hooks by the door. Your world calls for its own small rituals. Perhaps 3 small acts you can lean on at day's end. A light to soften the room, a gentle stretch to ease the joints, a single tune, or a steady hum to settle the breath. Simple, predictable cues that help you drift off and keep the space around you friendly and calm. The lanes grow quiet. The lantern path lies at rest, coins of warm glow linked across bridges and along stone. Below the city, the Leviathan curls deeper, a slow, contented wait at peace in the dark. And on a narrow lane, two lovers walk home side by side, steps matched, shoulders brushing now and then with no hurry at all. Let your breath find that same rhythm now, easy and kind. Let the exhale carry you a little farther each time. Let the rhythm continue now in the coziness of your bed. If this brought you ease, let the ritual meet you again tomorrow night. Share it with someone who could use a softer evening so their room can settle and their shoulders can drop too. May your own lanterns align now, steady and warm. Let your exhale lengthen. Let your jaw soften. Let the coziness of your bed hold you. And like the tide that keeps its gentle promise, may your rest arrive and stay and deepen.